So Konami have released a pack with Philipp Lahm, Cannavaro, and Peter Schmeichel. So we're going to give the best level in, what skills to put on them, and then if you can use the booster craft and upgrades to get the best out of the cards. So starting off with Philipp Lahm, this is a player that I have a different version of, and he's one of my favorite players in the game. So I'm definitely very interested to see what this one looks like. So if we look at his builds, I do have 3 builds. I would really only use 2, but I want to use the 3rd build to explain that it's a build that I think a lot of people might attempt to use, but I don't think will be the best. So here is the first one. You can see that we got quite good dribbling, good passing, and most importantly, we got the 85 aggression before the boosts to get the +3. He's also quite fast and got great balance, so even them dribbling stats will feel a lot better because of that 91 balance. We go on to the second build. It's similar, but we take off a little bit of the defending points to get us more pace, but we can make back on the aggression by putting a booster. So you will still only have 87 aggression versus 88 before, but it's pretty much the same build except we get more pace, and the lower defensive stats elsewhere don't really matter. It's only going to be 96s versus 95. I think 95 is going to play the exact same. I don't think there's any way you're going to be able to tell the difference, but you might tell the difference on the aggression before you put that booster on, but he is a little bit faster. So that's the builds I would go for. There is another build you could do, which is something like this. It's not that much faster, but we did put a little bit more points into the pace. But the reason I wouldn't do it is just because the aggression is too low. The other Philipp Lahm I have has 90 aggression, and it makes him like an amazing card. And I do think aggression, especially with smaller centre-backs, or not centre-backs, smaller defenders, is very important because they have shorter legs. You can see their leg coverage is lower, so they have to make up a lot more space when they're going into a tackle than a taller player. And the aggression will help with that. It'll help with the speeds they go into a tackle. So I'd recommend the first 2 builds. I wouldn't really go for this one unless you're purely focused on making them better attacking wise and you don't really care about, well, obviously you will care about his defendability, but it's a secondary concern rather than his ability to go up and down the wing. If we look at Lahm's skills, he does have edge crossing, and he also has very high weak foot. So before this card came out, I assumed it was only going to be high weak foot. So I thought if you play him left back, which is where I think he's best, the edge crossing isn't going to really matter because, you know, you need to hit it on the right foot, but he does have the very high weak foot, so he should be able to play it on both feet. And then his skills elsewhere, he's got a few interesting ones like Rising Shot and Long Range Curler. I don't think you're going to really be using them too often. But for the skills, I'd recommend putting on Philipp Lahm. The first 2 I would definitely recommend putting on are Track Back and Man Marking. Those 2 skills, when I put them on my version, just made them one of the best at tackling in the game and just closing down the opponent. I'd also go for aerial superiority. I know it might sound surprising, but if we go back to the eFootball Hub website, you can see that his jump height is actually quite decent. He has got quite decent jumping stats. And as someone who's used the other card and put aerial superiority on that, this guy wins headers quite often. I had a game just the other day where against Hullet, Hullet was the right wing forward and Philipp Lahm was marking him. He beat Hullet in the air 3 different times. And it's not just that game either, he does it repeatedly. So definitely put aerial superiority on them. Your opponent won't realise that, you know, if he thinks, okay, Philipp Lahm's small, I'll play the long ball up to that wing. But no, Philipp Lahm will be able to win the headers if you give him the skill. So for the next skill, it's choice between cut behind and turn and double touch. It's up to you. Double touch is obviously if you're in the final third and you need to beat the man, and then cut behind and turn is very good. Particularly if we're going to put on another skill I recommend for when you're deep on the pitch with the build-up. So the other skills I'd recommend, it's choice between low lofted pass and blocker. So I think most people are going to go for blocker. They just want to make them more defensively sure. I don't really think you need blocker on your left backs or your full backs just because you can manually put the player into position. Same concept applies to centre backs, but just more, you're going to need their centre backs to block shots more often than your full back. But then, look, it's up to you. Full back, if you like blocker on your fullback, go for it. I don't really feel like I notice it too much. Overall, I'm impressed with the cards, but I think if you compare it to the previous version that I have, it's not worth the upgrade. I think this one's arguably better. It's got a bit more kind of acceleration, and then the aggression boost is quite noticeable. And then skills wise, also, because it doesn't start with edge crossing, it allowed me to get cut behind and turn and low lofted pass onto this Lahm, while also having the man marking and track back I suggested, but also blocker too. So I think this one was a better offer. Although if I were to redo the skills in this guy, I would probably take off that acrobatic clearance for a double touch. So moving on to Cannavaro, who is another player I used, but this was a while ago. But I did like that card back in the day, so we're going to have to see what this one looks like as well. So for Cannavaro, I think it's very straightforward. We're just doing a build where we get him his pace, physical, and defending up, nothing to do with the passing or dribbling, except for that leftover point. If we look at the points we put in, you can see we have 85 speed and acceleration. So when we're thinking about what booster craft and upgrade to put on, if we take off any points from lower body strength or dexterity, we're going to go below the 85 threshold, so it doesn't make sense. Additionally, he probably does have excess aerial ability, but it's only 5 points invested, so if you take off a point there by reinvesting it through the booster crafting, points you're going to get can't really go much elsewhere. So when you're putting the booster on, this is what it look like with the boosters. You should probably just put on like a shutdown or any defending one, really just to get extra points into the defending. And you can take a defending point off and then put it into, you can keep it into the defending actually, just keep the points in, or you can take it off and put it into the dribbling or passing. To be honest, I think the only one you would consider is if you can get the dribbling up to 70s, that's the only one I would do. Other than that, I would just keep your points into defending and just make them as good as possible there. So Cannavaro has got a good collection of skills, but there are a few that I think we need to put on him. So the 3 main ones we just need are one-touch passing, true passing, and then low lofted pass. Especially the first 2, one-touch pass and true passing, just to help him kind of build up from the back, and then low lofted pass when you need to hit it long. I have the other version of Cannavaro, came out over a year ago now, and he was good at passing, so that's why I recommend low lofted pass too. I also recommend cut behind and turn and gamesmanship, particularly just because of how nimble he is. He got good acceleration of balance, he will be good on the ball, so you will kind of have a tendency of wanting to carry the ball out from the back with him. So definitely put gamesmanship on him just in case you get fouled, or maybe not fouled, but you get kind of put under pressure and your player or Cannavaro falls over, you might win a free kick. And if we compare this new Cannavaro to the previous one, I do think it is fair to say it's quite a upgrade. I don't know if it's worth the money. That's gonna have to be up to you to decide how much money you spend on the game. I would probably not upgrade, sorry, I'd not upgrade if I was in that position. But it definitely is a noticeable change. You got a lot more pace, a lot more physical, and then pretty much similar defensive stats, but it is actually slightly better as well. And then actually, if you look at the balance, quite a big upgrade to balance. So the new one's ability to carry the ball will be quite a lot better as well. So you will notice that the dribbling stats look the same, actually slightly worse on the new one, but trust me, when you play with them in game, the new one's dribbling will feel a lot better. So last but not least, we're going to look at Peter Schmeichel. This guy is long considered the best goalkeeper in eFootball. I do think Petr Cech overtook him recently enough, but we'll have a look here to see if this one will be better. So the builds, I've got a couple of builds. This one has a booster applied. If we just look at it without it for a second, the booster, this is what it looks like. To be honest, goalkeeping builds, there's not too much into them. I don't think they're that complicated. I just try to get as many stats above 90 as possible, or if possible. And then prioritize awareness, reflexes, and reach, and then that's how I go for it. So this is one of the builds. This would be another one. This one doesn't have a booster on, but it's got more jumping. You can see here the jump height's 282 centimeters versus 280.7, so there's going to be 1.3 centimeter difference. I don't know if that is going to be noticeable, to be honest. And then obviously you would just put a goalkeeper booster on top here. So if we compare him to the old Peter Schmeichel, the stats wise, I don't know if you've noticed a difference. I don't think, if there is a difference, there is, but I don't think it's gonna be too noticeable. We'll go back for a sec. Yeah, it's not really a noticeable difference. And then jump height, it's the same on this Schmeichel, the old Schmeichel, as with that build is the first Schmeichel build I just recommended, where you don't increase the jump to 90. When you increase the jump to 90, you get that little bit of an extra, but again, I don't know if that is going to be a noticeable difference. And then if we compare him to Petr Cech, stats wise, I think Petr Cech is pretty much the same, but Schmeichel does have a lot more jump height, so you would say, and he's got more arm coverage as well, to be fair, actually. There's anything else, leg length, base, I don't know if they actually leg coverage. He's got more leg coverage, actually. Cech, I don't know if leg coverage will matter. I don't think goalkeepers save with their feet too much. So I do think Schmeichel should be the better keeper now. I don't know if it's worth the upgrade though. I think it'll be minimal. If you're somebody who spends a lot of money on this game and you want always the best goalkeeper, probably safe to go for this pack, because you're going to get the new Cannavaro, who looks amazing. I don't think there's a card that's similar to him. And then Philipp Lahm, I think my Philipp Lahm was better, but you might not have had that one. So overall, I think it is a good pack. I'm not going to be spending my coins on it. Maybe I'll do a cheeky 100. Got Cantona 100 coins last week, so maybe I'm going to get one of them again this week. But definitely not a bad pack at all.